Hello. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce you to playwright Tanya Saracho of the fantastic play you just heard read, Fade. Tanya is an actress, a playwright, a dramaturg, and a screenwriter. Before writing for television, she co founded Teatro Luna in 2000, a theater company based in Chicago, and was its co artistic director for a decade. She also founded the Alliance of Latinx Theater Artists, or ALTA, in Chicago. She's written for television for such shows as Girls, Devious Maids, How to Get Away with Murder, and she was the creator and showrunner on the Star's very popular show, Vida. We're so lucky to have her joining us today to give us a little bit of background and inside scoop on what it's like to write in Hollywood and what it was like to write the play Fade. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I'd love to just start at the beginning of where the idea for Fade came from.
Well, it was a little bit like therapy, because it was my first year of writing for television in a show where I was having a really hard time culturally, like with the culture of TV writing and culturally, like with my ethnicity and race, so I won't say that I had moved to LA. I was just like visiting while I did this. That's how for 3 years, that's how I thought about it until I had to move. I was like, no, I would not leave my Chicago apartment. I was like, no. But I was in the writers workshop at the Mark Taper Forum that they do, this CTG, Center Theater Group workshop. So I was there with other playwrights and we had to bring pages all the time. And I was so blocked forever, and all I would do is complain about my job. I was like, and it's so horrible, and I'm so traumatized. And then finally, one of the participants, Matthew Gold, finally was like, "What do you write about that?" He goes, "Just start writing about it. I mean, this is what you bring in every time, this venting, just start writing." So I was like, "Oh yeah." So that's sort of how it started. It started from, I'm going to say it's a dangerous word, but an autobiographical place, but that's not what the play became, because
Sure.
after a while, because I only was able to produce 36 pages by the time we had our readings everybody was at different stages of their, at the end of the program. I don't know if they call it a program, but at the end of that workshop, we had readings and I only had 36 pages, and it was pretty like, I'm obviously venting. I have to take this piece and see if it's an actual piece of theater that stands on its own and it's not therapy, for me.
Mhm.
And then I think when I went off to for a little bit, Oregon Shakespeare Festival gave me some space because I was building a play for them, and so I finished it there, I think. And then other places, Goodman also gave me a little bit space. So like other places gave me space to like finish it, and then it became its own thing about, at the end maybe where Lucia uses Abel, and that didn't happen. But the helping me with stuff did happen. Like, so what would happen is that I would stay, because I had never seen the program Final Draft, where you write a play, where you write a television show like that. That's the program we had to use. So I had to learn how to use it. So I would stay after work till about 11 p.m. And at 6 p.m. the cleaning crew would come in, and that's where I met. But Abel was an amalgamation and like a composite of a few people, mainly two guys who helped me. One who was from El Sereno. I didn't know where El Sereno was, like, because I wasn't from LA, but he was helping me a little bit with pitching, and like I was like, so where would I find that? Where would I buy that? And then I would bring that into the room. So in that way, it inspired Abel, but never did I do that.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
actually, I stood with them on strike when they went on strike against Disney. I was like out there picketing with them. So it wasn't quite, but
Right.
it inspired this, and then it went off and became a fictionalized thing of all of its own, with some, especially at the beginning, like I could recognize some things that happened to me, but the rest is, a play.
I think you answered this a little bit, but you were writing for the Mark Taper Forum, and but I think it's so interesting that you're writing about the writing for television, but you're using the medium of theater. Why is this a play instead of a?
Right. Yeah, anything for the screen. Well, because that was my main medium, theater, when I got to like, the reason I started doing TV is so that I could support my theater habit, like my theater life. And now it's completely taken over. But like theater was the way that I was going to express myself. TV was just where I was going to get a paycheck from. That's where I was, I was never going to get to create something for television. Like that was never in my thought process. I was going to get some paychecks so I could go back to Chicago and make more theater, especially because like I had started to make theater in the regional theater, scene. So I'm like, but you really, in the American theater, you can't make a living as a playwright. You just can't. I mean, Outrageous Fortune, the book, will lay it all out for you. Why we have not set up that system where we can make a living. So either you have to teach, and I'm a terrible teacher, or you have to write for TV or film, which I didn't know what I was. It just sort of fell in my lap, but like, it wasn't like a conscious choice. So I don't want to sound like, try to sound smart and be like, well, because whatever, we can, it just happened that theater was how I was expressing myself. And it was my first year of TV. So I didn't have that license or permission to create for TV, like in my head. So yeah, it became a theater thing. Right now we're looking into making it into a podcast and possibly a film, but that's happened later. Now that I've seen it a few times, actually in Chicago, I feel like it was one of my favorite productions of it. Because I think Chicago gets how I talk, like my Chicago people get, how, and when I went, I was already here when it happened in Chicago at Victory Gardens, where I was
fabulous.
I'm a member, and I was like, this is a really good production. Anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I mean, and you said that you were sort of just getting your start when you were writing the play, and certainly a few very successful years since then, when you have been able to, create your own narratives and your own shows. And one of those was the very popular show Vita. And I'm curious about, you got to, as the showrunner, you really got to kind of call the shots on that. And I know that you had really specific ideas and interests for what your writer's room would look like and what your group of producers would look like. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Just like in theater, because I used to run a theater company in Chicago called Teatro Luna, all Latina theater company. And then I founded the Alliance of Latinx the theater artists in Chicago, Alta. I've always been concerned about us. I don't know how else to put it. I like want to put us, center us, us meaning Latinx or Latine, however you want to say it, Latina or Latinx. When I got permission, and this is what I mean by permission, where I had a champion inside Stars, and the formula, when I tell you her last name, you'll be like, oh, I see. Her name was Marta Fernandez, and she just yes and everything. And that's the formula of success, right? Like that I don't have to explain. It was like she championed stuff that I don't even know she championed in there. That's like had battles that I was not privy to, But what happened was a yes culture where like when I wanted an all Latinx writers room, top to bottom, and never did I get pushback. In fact, I got a file of, yep, we thought you'd say that because of your reputation in the theater. So here's a list, that's what I got instead of like what I thought, because I was ready for like okay, I have a good pitch for this. Like Atlanta just did this with an all Black writers room. Why can't we? Like I was ready. I didn't have to do it because Marta Fernandez with that last name, with that name, like, you just had to. And then when I said, and also all the directors, here's a list. What, and so like, it was that. So going into that with that sort of support, and also the fact that they didn't give me a babysitter. Usually, traditionally, historically, I'd only been here 3 years. I'd only been in this town for 3 years. And then they handed me a show that cost millions of dollars to make with no babysitter. Usually like, a white guy who's done it lots of times gets to hold my hand through it. Would have. I mean, if you look at the other Latinx, especially Latina showrunners, they gave them that babysitter. But I didn't get one because Marta Fernandez. And then, like you said, I got to call the shots, but like calling all the shots is not just like, oh, I'm a boss ass bitch, it's not just that. It's also, I get to hire us and open the door for us and lift the gate of the castle for us. And that was my favorite part. How we made Be That was as important as what we made, you know? And that I can't wait to have another shot at it with another show, because I mean, we're planning that now, but because that was the best, like the families that formed, the cast, the writers, the producers, it's my favorite part of it.
That's
really like theater, you know, like an ensemble of players, you know, a troupe. It became.
That's fabulous. I'm sure you'll continue those working relationships. Well, thank you so much for your time. We're just over the moon to have gotten to read your play and to share it with our audiences, and especially to get to talk with you a little bit about it. So thank
Thank
you.
you for having me and for having my two characters that I still love so much, for inviting them.
Oh my gosh, we love them too.
Thank you.